February 14, 1943, Kasserine Pass, Tunisia, just after dawn. The desert is quiet in the way only a battlefield can be quiet, heavy, watchful, deceptive. Cold air hangs low between the ridgelines, carrying the smell of dust, diesel, and burned cordite from yesterday's fighting. Inside a Panzer IV, Oberfeldwebel Karl Weiss presses his forehead against the periscope glass and scans the valley below. Then he sees them. American tanks, boxy, tall, painted a dull olive green that looks almost soft against the hard Tunisian rock. They move in a loose formation, tracks clanking, engines loud and unrefined. To Weiss and the men around him, they look unfinished, like prototypes sent to war too early. Someone laughs over the intercom. Shermans, another crewman says, almost amused. They burn. That reputation has already spread through the Afrika Korps. Thin armor, high silhouette, a gasoline engine that turns the tank into a torch when hit. German crews have a nickname for it now, Tommycocker, the Tommy Cooker. Weiss has fought British tanks since 1941. Crusaders, Valentines, Grants. He has watched them explode, bail out, or freeze under accurate German fire. These Americans, he's been told, are no different, inexperienced crews hiding behind mass production. Rommel himself has warned them not to underestimate the enemy, but warnings fade when confidence hardens into habit. The order comes down the line. Hold fire, let them come closer. At 1,200 meters, the Shermans are still advancing, unaware they are already framed in German gun sights. Weiss feels the familiar calm settle in, that strange moment before combat when training takes over and fear steps aside. At 800 meters, the first Panzer opens fire. The shell hits the lead Sherman square in the glacis. There is a flash, a pause, then fire pours out of the hatches like liquid. The American tank stops dead, smoke climbing into the pale morning sky. The laughter returns, sharper now. Another Sherman is hit, then another. One crew scrambles out, blackened, uniforms already burning. German gunners are efficient, precise, methodical. This is how the war has gone for months in North Africa. Find the enemy, let them advance, destroy them. Within minutes, the valley is littered with burning hulks. To Karl Weiss, it feels routine, almost boring. But something about this attack feels wrong. The Americans don't retreat. Instead, more Shermans crest the ridge, then more. They keep coming, engines roaring, dust clouds rising behind them. Weiss counts them silently, 10, 15, 20. Too many. German doctrine is built on speed and shock, strike hard, break the enemy, exploit the collapse. But these tanks don't break. Even as they burn, the formation keeps moving forward, pressing into artillery fire, ignoring losses that would have shattered other units. Weiss fires again. Another Sherman erupts into flames. And then, for the first time, he feels it. Not fear. Confusion. By midday, the battlefield belongs to the Germans. The Americans have pulled back, leaving dozens of wrecks behind. The sand is scorched black in places, twisted metal still popping as it cools. A textbook German victory. Yet as Weiss climbs out of his Panzer, boots crunching on broken track links, he notices something unsettling. The wrecks are everywhere. Too many wrecks. American tanks are not being husbanded. They are not being preserved. They are being spent, thrown forward with an almost careless willingness to lose them. Later that evening, Weiss sits with other crewmen beside their tank, eating cold rations as the desert wind picks up. Someone lights a cigarette. Another jokes about American incompetence. But the tone has changed. They don't fight like the British, one man says quietly. They fight like they have more, another replies. That night, German recovery crews move among the burned-out Shermans. They expect to find thin steel, poor workmanship, cheap machines rushed off an assembly line. Instead, they find something else. Spall liners, reinforced welds, radios in every tank, not just command vehicles, spare parts stowed with almost obsessive redundancy. ammunition racks carefully positioned low in the hull. This isn't sloppy design. It's intentional. And it raises a disturbing question no one says out loud yet. If this is what America is willing to lose, what does it still have coming? 2 weeks later, replacements arrive for the destroyed U.S. units. New Shermans, fresh crews, no visible hesitation. The desert remembers the burning tanks. The Americans do not. And somewhere in the German ranks, the mocking nickname Tommyknocker begins to sound less like a joke and more like a warning that hasn't fully revealed itself yet. Because the Shermans the Afrika Korps is facing now are not the ones they will be facing next. March 23, 1943, Sidi Bou Zid, central Tunisia, late afternoon. The sun hangs low, turning the desert copper and gold. Heat shimmers above the ground, warping the horizon into something unreal. Inside his Panzer IV, Karl Weiss listens to the engine idle and studies the terrain through his optics. Something has changed. The Americans are back, but they're moving differently now. Their Shermans advance in shorter bounds, pausing behind rises, coordinating movement with artillery bursts that land just ahead of German positions. White phosphorus smoke drifts across the field, blinding optics and forcing Panzer crews to fire blind. Weiss tightens his grip on the turret controls. This isn't the reckless charge from Kasserine. This is deliberate. A shell slams into the ground nearby, showering the Panzer with sand and stones. The radio crackles with overlapping voices, German units calling out targets, requesting support, reporting movement. Weiss hears something else too, faint but unmistakable. Aircraft. He looks up through the commander's cupola just as the first P-40 Warhawk screams overhead. The sound is violent, mechanical, relentless. Bombs fall behind German lines, kicking up towering columns of dust. Supply trucks burn. Anti-tank guns go silent. The Shermans move again. Weiss fires. His round punches through the side of an advancing tank. Flames burst from the hatches, just as expected. But then something unexpected happens. The fire dies down. Not completely, but enough. The crew bails out, coughing and alive, not screaming, not engulfed. The tank sits still, damaged, but not the roaring inferno Weiss has come to expect. He frowns. Another hit, another Sherman struck in the hull. Smoke pours out, then thins. What? His gunner mutters. German intelligence officers will later name it Nasslagerung, wet ammunition storage. Water jackets surrounding the ammo racks, designed to suppress fires after penetration. It doesn't make the Sherman invincible. It makes it survivable. And survivability changes everything. By late 1943, American tank doctrine has accepted something Germany cannot afford. Tanks will be hit. Tanks will be lost. Crews must live to fight again. The Sherman is not built to duel Tigers or Panthers. It is built to be repaired, replaced, returned to the line. You can almost feel the difference in how the Americans fight now. When a Sherman is knocked out, another rolls forward to take its place. When one bogs down, recovery vehicles appear within hours. Damaged tanks are hauled back, stripped, rebuilt, and sent out again, sometimes with the same crew. Weiss watches it happen in real time. His Panzer platoon scores kill after kill, yet the pressure never eases. American artillery pounds the ridges. Infantry advances behind the tanks, using them as moving cover. Radios chatter constantly inside the Shermans, coordinated, disciplined, relentless. This isn't individual bravery. This is a system. At dusk, Weiss receives orders to withdraw to secondary positions. Fuel is low, ammunition is low, replacement tanks are not arriving tonight. As his Panzer pulls back, he passes a disabled Sherman being worked on by U.S. mechanics, under fire. They move calmly, methodically, as if repairing a farm machine instead of a combat vehicle. Weiss stares at them through his periscope. They don't look desperate. They look practiced. Later, in a captured American bivouac, German officers examine maintenance logs and manuals left behind in the retreat. Everything is standardized. Every bolt, every hose, every procedure. One officer shakes his head. They build these things like they expect to lose them, he says. Weiss understands the implication immediately. Germany builds tanks to win duels. America builds tanks to fight wars. That night, as Weiss writes a letter home by lamplight, he hesitates over his words. He does not mention fear. He does not mention doubt. But he writes one line he never expected to write. The Americans are learning faster than we can stop them. And somewhere far across the Atlantic, thousands of factory lights burn through the night, feeding a machine that does not care how many Shermans are destroyed today. Because tomorrow, there will be more, and the ones arriving next will not burn the same way. July 10, 1943, near Gela, Sicily, before sunrise. The sea is still smoking. Charred landing craft bob in the surf, their metal hulls twisted and blackened. The air smells of salt, oil, and burned rubber. Tracer fire arcs inland as American infantry fights to push off the beaches. And moving through the chaos, climbing past wreckage and bodies alike, come the Shermans. Carl Weiss is no longer in Africa. The Africa Corps is finished. Now he faces a different war. Sicily is green compared to Tunisia, vineyards, stone walls, low hills that break sightlines and shorten engagement distances. For German tank crews, that means ambush country. It should favor them. And yet, the Shermans keep coming. Weiss lines up his Panzer IV behind a crumbling farmhouse, turret angled down a narrow road flanked by olive trees. Through the sight, he watches an American column advance cautiously. Infantry scouts move ahead. Artillery bursts walk the hedgerows. This is not the army from Kasserine. He waits. At 600 meters, he fires. The first Sherman jerks violently, track blown off. Smoke spills from the hull. Weiss expects flames. They don't come. The tank doesn't burn. Instead, its turret still moves. The gun swings. A second later, Weiss's position explodes in dirt and stone as a 75mm shell slams into the farmhouse wall. He barely gets the Panzer into reverse in time. Inside the turret, no one speaks. A Sherman has just taken a disabling hit and kept fighting. By mid-1943, the M4 has quietly changed. Improved ammunition stowage, better firefighting systems, reinforced hull welding, crews drilled relentlessly on damage control. Fire suppression bottles sit within arm's reach. The tank is still vulnerable, but it no longer dies easily. German gunners notice it first. Penetrations that once guaranteed kills now produce damaged tanks instead of funeral pyres. American crews bail out, survive, and return. Some even rejoin their units within days. A tank is knocked out in the morning. By evening, it's gone. Recovered, towed, repaired. Back. Weiss feels the shift most acutely during a brutal engagement near Troina. German forces hold the high ground. American attacks come uphill, an engineer's nightmare. Yet the Shermans advance anyway, one after another, absorbing fire, masking infantry movements. Weiss scores 2 hits on one tank, then a third. It finally stops. But behind it, another rolls forward, and another. It feels like fighting the tide. Radio traffic grows frantic. Requests for air support go unanswered. Allied fighters dominate the sky. Ammunition is rationed now. Fuel is precious. The Americans, meanwhile, seem unconcerned. Captured prisoners tell the same story. More tanks are coming, more crews, more supplies than they can count. Weiss realizes something unsettling. The Sherman isn't terrifying because of what it can do. It's terrifying because it's replaceable. Germany's tanks are masterpieces, complex, powerful, demanding. Every loss hurts. Every destroyed Panzer represents months of skilled labor, scarce materials, irreplaceable experience. America treats tanks differently. They are tools. When one breaks, you fix it. When one burns, you build another. When a crew survives, you put them back inside steel and send them forward again. By August, as German forces retreat toward the Italian mainland, Weiss overhears an officer speaking to a junior commander. "We can kill them all day," the officer says, exhaustion heavy in his voice, "but we can't kill them faster than they arrive." That night, Weiss watches Allied ships offshore, their silhouettes endless against the horizon. He understands then that the war is no longer about tactics or bravery or even technology. It is about endurance. And Germany is running out of it. As Sicily falls, reports begin circulating among German units, rumors at first, then confirmations. New Shermans are arriving. Different Shermans. Heavier guns, thicker armor, better radios. The Americans are not just learning. They are evolving. And the next time Weiss faces one, he knows the old assumptions, the laughter, the mockery, the easy confidence will be gone. Because the Sherman he once dismissed has learned how to survive. September 12, 1944, near Aracourt, France, early morning fog. The ground is wet, heavy with autumn rain. Visibility is barely 100 meters. Engines idle in hushed clusters as German armor waits, concealed among hedgerows and tree lines. Karl Weiss, now a veteran with iron-gray stubble and tired eyes, peers through his optics and feels a familiar tightening in his chest. This terrain should favor them. They have Panthers now, powerful guns, sloped armor, machines built to kill Shermans at range with ease. Against these, the American tank is still technically inferior. On paper, the fog lifts slowly. Out of it emerge the Shermans. Not charging, not clumped together. They move in disciplined packets, spacing precise, infantry shadows close behind. Radios crackle constantly, unseen coordination flowing between tanks, artillery, and something else Weiss has learned to dread. The sky. A Panther fires, a Sherman takes the hit and slews sideways, smoke venting from the rear. Weiss expects flames. They don't come. The crew escapes. The tank sits as a smoking hulk, wounded, not dead. Then the American response begins. Artillery lands first, not random, not scattered. It walks directly onto German firing positions, forcing Panthers to displace. Weiss relocates, heart pounding, knowing what comes next. The sound arrives before the sight. A deep, rising roar that turns heads upward. P-47 Thunderbolts. They burst through the cloud layer like steel hawks, sunlight flashing off wings. Rockets peel away, screaming toward the tree line. Explosions tear through German positions. One Panther vanishes in a column of fire and soil. Weiss slams his hatch shut as shrapnel rains down. This is the part no armor manual prepared him for. The Sherman does not fight alone. American doctrine has fused tank, infantry, artillery, and air power into a single organism. Shermans advance not as duelists, but as bait, forcing German armor to reveal itself, to fire, to survive just long enough to be seen. And once seen, it is marked. Weiss fires again, scoring a clean penetration on a Sherman at close range. The tank halts, smoke pours out, the crew bails. But there is no satisfaction. Because even as the Sherman dies, its radio is already transmitting coordinates, direction, confirmation. Within minutes, shells fall, aircraft circle, infantry probes. The price for killing one American tank is now exposure to everything else America can bring. By midday, the German counterattack has stalled. Panthers lie disabled or abandoned, some destroyed not by tanks at all, but by aircraft and artillery summoned by those very Shermans they were built to kill. Weiss sits in his motionless tank, engine off, listening to distant explosions and realizing the truth with a clarity that leaves no room for denial. The Sherman has become dangerous not because it is strong, but because it is connected. Later, in a makeshift command post, captured German officers speak openly among themselves. No bravado, no jokes. The tank isn't the enemy, one says quietly, the system is. They understand now what the early mocking concealed. Every Sherman is a sensor. Every crew is expendable, but never wasted. Every loss feeds a response that grows faster and deadlier with time. Weiss thinks back to Tunisia, to the laughter, to the burning wrecks in the sand. Back then, the Americans were paying tuition. Now they have graduated. As dusk falls over the French countryside, Weiss watches replacement Shermans rumble forward, fresh paint, clean tracks, crews alert but calm. Behind them come trucks, fuel, ammunition, recovery vehicles. An endless procession. Germany has better tanks. America has better war. And for the first time, Weiss allows himself to think the unthinkable. That the Sherman, mocked, ridiculed, written off, may be one of the most successful weapons of the entire war. Not because it cannot be destroyed, but because destroying it no longer matters. As night closes in, orders come down for another withdrawal, another line to abandon, another delay bought at unsustainable cost. Weiss starts his engine and follows the column back, knowing something irreversible has occurred. The war has passed the point where skill alone can decide it. And somewhere behind him, the Shermans keep moving forward. Not burning, not stopping, not running out. December 18, 1944, Ardennes Forest, Belgium, before dawn. Snow muffles everything. Tracks crunch softly beneath steel. Engines idle low, careful, restrained. The forest is a maze of frozen trunks and narrow roads, the kind of terrain German tank crews once dreamed of: a close range, limited visibility, perfect killing ground. Carl Weiss sits inside his Panther, shoulders hunched, listening. No aircraft. For the first time in months, the sky is silent. This is the moment German command has been waiting for. Operation Whacked am Rhein, one final gamble. Bad weather grounds Allied planes. Surprise breaks thin American lines. Speed punches a hole straight to Antwerp. End the war in the West. Weiss has heard the promises. He no longer believes them, but hope is stubborn. The attack begins in darkness. German armor surges forward, Panthers and Tigers leading the way. At close range, their guns are devastating. Shermans appear suddenly in the headlights, tall silhouettes, caught mid-movement. Weiss fires. A Sherman erupts into flame, then another. The road clogs with burning wrecks. American infantry scatters into the trees, snow flashing white as they run. For a brief, dangerous moment. It feels like 1940 again. German radios crackle with excitement, breakthroughs reported, prisoners taken, miles gained. The Shermans burn. But Weiss notices something else. Even as American units fall back, the radio traffic never turns frantic. No panic, no collapse, just reports, calm voices, coordinates passed cleanly up the chain. The Americans are losing ground, but not control. By midday, the weather clears just enough. And the arithmetic returns. New Shermans arrive from the west, then more. Fresh units roll straight into the gaps left by destroyed tanks. Damaged vehicles are dragged aside, recovery crews already at work, even under shellfire. Weiss destroys 3 Shermans in one engagement. It changes nothing. Behind each wreck, another appears. Behind each delay, another American unit takes position. Fuel runs low for the Germans. Ammunition is counted carefully now. orders shift from advance to conserve. The Americans do not conserve. Captured supply dumps reveal staggering figures, entire battalions stocked with spare tanks, replacement crews already trained, fuel reserves measured not in days but in weeks. Weiss overhears a staff officer muttering to himself while studying a map. They replace in hours what we lose in months. That night, Weiss sits inside his silent Panther, engine off, surrounded by burned-out hulks, German and American alike. Snow drifts across them all equally. He thinks back to Tunisia. Back then, the Sherman burned easily. That was the mistake. America did not fear losing tanks. It designed its war around it. Germany built machines to survive battles. America built machines to survive war. By the time Allied aircraft return in force, P-47s screaming low over the forest, rockets tearing into columns, the outcome is already decided, not by tactics, not by courage. By numbers, by logistics, by a system that does not slow when it bleeds. As German units withdraw yet again, Weiss realizes the cruelest truth of all. The Sherman was never meant to be unbeatable. It was meant to be unstoppable. And as long as American factories kept running, as long as crews kept surviving, as long as radios kept transmitting, the laughter that once followed its name has vanished forever. Because the tank that always burned taught Germany something far worse than fear. It taught them that killing it was no longer enough. April 11th, 1945, near the Elbe River, Germany, late afternoon. The war has shrunk. What was once vast, deserts, seas, continents, is now a narrow ribbon of road lined with shattered villages and leafless trees. Smoke drifts lazily from burning farmhouses. The sound of artillery is distant, almost tired. Carl Weiss stands beside his immobilized Panther, one track blown clean off by an air attack hours earlier. The engine is dead. There is no fuel anyway. Around him, the remnants of his unit wait in silence. They are no longer fighting for victory. They are fighting for time. Across an open field, American tanks appear. Shermans. They advance slowly, deliberately, guns forward, infantry close behind. Their paint is chipped, their hulls scarred, but they move with the confidence of an army that knows the ending. Weiss watches them through binoculars. None of them burned. A German officer beside him scoffs weakly. It sounds forced, empty. Weeks earlier, Weiss would have counted armor thickness, gun caliber, penetration angles. Now he counts something else. How many? And how close? Artillery thumps in the distance. White smoke blooms, marking German positions. Radios crackle from the American line, short, efficient bursts of communication. The system is still working. Even now. Weiss remembers the first time he saw a Sherman in Tunisia. The laughter, the certainty, the way they had waited for the Americans to come closer because they believed the fight was already decided. He understands the irony too late. The Sherman was never designed to win the first battle. It was designed to win the last one. An American officer steps forward under a white flag. The firing stops. Orders echo down the German line. Lay down arms. Weiss removes his helmet and sets it gently on the hull of his tank. The steel is cold beneath his hand. He feels no anger, no humiliation. Only clarity. They line up in the field, rifles stacked, hands raised. The Shermans halt a short distance away, engines idling steadily. American crews watch from open hatches, calm, alert, unafraid. One of them meets Weiss's eyes. Young, clean-shaven, no expression of triumph. Just professionalism. As prisoners are marched away, Weiss looks back one last time at the battlefield, at the tanks that didn't burn, at the columns of replacements already moving forward behind them. He finally understands what defeated them. Not a single weapon, not a single battle, not even a single enemy, but a way of war. The laughter died somewhere between Tunisia and Germany. It was replaced by respect, then resignation, then inevitability. History will argue about the Sherman, its armor, its gun, its flaws. Those who faced it know the truth. It was not feared because it was indestructible. It was feared because it never stopped coming. And when the war ended, it was still there. Engines running, radios alive, crews ready. Waiting.